Dato' Lee briefly said that when PAS come out with the concept of political Islam, it make the religion impure, and more importantly, it will hamper the inclusiveness towards other people. So the question is only true, the logic is only true if the commitment to Islam can undermine the commitment to democracy. And I think Dato' Zul can answer that question. And to be honest, I'm dying to know the answer to that question. Doctor, you can go.
Terima kasih. Thank you, moderator and fellow panelists, fellow Malaysians. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, salam reformasi, atau salam penambahbaikan. Terima kasih. Thank you for having me here and representing the Islamist Party of Malaysia, PAS. It would be naive or presumptuous on my part to believe that you suddenly really believe in what we stand for. I would be more realistic to believe that you are inviting me so that you can engage and in a mutually rewarding kind of discourse. And PAS coming of age, PAS coming of age, and in a more intense, engaging mode within the Pakatan Rakyat. Surely, we in Pakatan Rakyat would want to be believed, and we surely would have and would struggle for a better Malaysia that is worthy of our loyalty, compassion, love, and respect. Initially had a lot of time in the flight, and for the first time ever, I have written my speech, because for 15 minutes, I'm sure, as politician, usually Intel is always to speak short lah. When politician have got his mic, the difficulty is to do their emergency landing. So for 15 minutes, I'm quite sure I will not be able to, articulate and deliberate of whatever that I intend to share it with you. So with that question, rather than the question I was asked earlier on dialogue and debate, I must first perhaps make a mention of this need for dialogue and debate. All the more now. Not that we were racially and in terms of religious relationship better off before, but of late it has been racial animosity and religious antagonism has really deepened of late. And all the more that we are in need of unlearn and relearn, not to dialogue or debate, perhaps that's too big a word perhaps for the lay rakyat and lay people, to learn and to unlearn and relearn of how to converse and to culturalize a nation that is able to have a national conversation, because debate and dialogue is the exclusive domain of politicians perhaps. The rakyat as a whole, urgently in need of the ability to talk, converse, and culturalize this national conversation on a litany of problems and obstacles that are in the way of achieving a better Malaysia. So friends, I've been provoked a number of times by my fellow panelists to Dato' T had it like do away with Islam. And Dato' Zaid is asking us to open up to all. We already have done that. We have a Dewan Himpunan Penyokong Islam, 100% from people of other faiths and other race. I don't like to use the word
They can't go.
Yeah, soon, Dato' Zaid. How we have evolved. That's why I use the term coming of age. And Dr. T was quite, in a way right, arguably perhaps, that we have now come to, we have been catapulted into the center stage of national politics by our late President, Mustafa Dil Noor. And I think Tuan Guru Haji Hadi is trying his best to pursue on that trajectory of political Islam. If you really want us to renegade Islam or debunk Islam, let me assure you, if you do not want us to be like UMNO, let us have Islam, because this is Islam. This Islam is that pushes us to having what we have right now. If you ask us to lead Islam, we will be equal, if not worse than UMNO. And I think it's not about being a race-based or even Islamic-based as such. More importantly, right now, in the construct of a new politics, all the more in terms of the two-party system, and the intense contestation of the last GE, has provided us, and particularly with PAS, we have come a long way, I believe, of almost evolving ourselves from the agenda, the doctrine of Islamic State, to one that is calling for a negara berkebajikan, a benevolent, caring, and a land of opportunity and care. And that is surely a landmark, a watershed in what I call a generational shift of once upon a time Islamists, looking at only Islamic State per se and the legalistic aspect of Islam. We now, as Dr. Zaid alluded, we have come to understand and relate to the greater constituency of Malaysia. We once upon a time was in that northern state and the east coast states of Terengganu, Kelantan, Kedah, and Perlis. But right now, I think we have, I don't want to be bragging, but we are now at the center stage of the national politics. And we will be on this trajectory all the more. So to answer that question directly, moderator, yes, I have written a piece in the Edge. You may have seen it sometime late last year. Political Islam at the crossroad. Yeah, and I outrightly, in my always without fear of favor kind of thing, my without fear of favor kind of approach, I've made it very clear that for political Islam to move forward and beyond at this critical crossroad, we have got to really relate, to make our message comprehensible in the language of a Democrat. Because there is a claim and accusation against us that we are, Islamists are essentially non-democratic because they get everything from God and they don't understand democracy. While that may be so in the sense of our ideology, it is, it hinges on Islam. But when we come to us relating and engaging in democratic process, we are as democrat as others, if not more. For we respect rule of law. And we have lost so many times, yet we do not take up arms to win elections. Right? So, if I may say this, that yes, we are Islamists, but we are Democrats. In the sense that we understand democracy and the contestation, of which there are times when we win and we rejoice, and there are times when we lost and we go back to the drawing board. And that is the defining criteria of a Democrat. And Islam is our ideological commitment and conviction. You can't take that from us. Much as you are, so a socialist or a communist perhaps, or what have you, we have Islam. And we would like to be believed that we are a critical political players in nation rebuilding and in fact human civilization remaking. And allow us as Islamists, as Democrats, to be engaged and stop vilifying us, Dr. T and Dr. Zaid, you can't change that construct. We are there because we are Islamists. And the march of the Guru and others, And that is the defining criteria of a democrat. Somebody can claim themselves to be a democrat, but when they face an Islamist, they stop to be democrat. They become undemocratic. Because they say, can you debunk Islam? Now I, for one, let me be Voltaire here in a sense. I may disagree with you, but I will fight for the right and defend your right to espouse and advocate your ideological belief. And that is truly a democrat. God, I deserve a clap on that. The latest question there. No fear. I'll give you the assurance. Past, yes, in any political party for that matter, you have a milieu, you have an ideological spectrum, you have, the overzealous on one end, and the so-called Erdogan and the moderate at the other. How we would describe. I don't quite like this description, but that's the fact. The fact of the matter is that in all political parties, you have the overzealous, whatever you like to call them. But that is the nature of a dynamic political party. And that is the dynamism that is also in past. So that kind of differences, we are very able to manage. And I assure you, past has always believed in democracy as a means to achieve our end. Not to exploit democracy one time, one person, one vote, one time. That was how we Islamists have been accused. The Islamists have been accused to leverage on democracy and finally debunk democracy on winning. I think that has got to stop. That Islamophobia has really got to stop. And I think the way forward for Islamists is to expound and articulate, not just conceptually, but as well on the merits of performing and doing. Now we have done it in Kelantan, we are together in Selangor and Penang, and I think that is the way for us to be believed. And Ratuti mentioned Khalid Samad, myself, and the moderate. No, we are not in the fringes of past. We are now the mainstream of past, and that is the way forward. And that's how we will be believed. Because as for us, the debate about the tahalus siyasi, the coalition politics in Pakatan of late, watch it. You look at it in the Mujtama, you will never get to be passed. Because the mainstream, the thrust of the party is for coalition politics, because this is the positive way forward for Malaysia. For us to achieve a better Malaysia, we really require a two-party system in a new politics that will debunk all this bigotry of race and others. So, have I finished my 15 minutes? Oh, good. I have a lot to say. I've already completely gone out of text. And that diversity that we once upon a time brag about, we leverage on it in our tourist industry. Malaysia, truly Asia, whatever that means to you. But I believe that all those assets, all those strengths of us, of our diversity has now been turned around to be our greatest liability, a bane more than a boon, our weaknesses. So only through conversation, back to the issue of the only one. I'm the only one to get that, yeah? Thank you. You're very kind, very gracious. Let me just wind up by saying that all the more that Malaysian has to learn to converse and to dialogue and discourse. This is the way of a mature society. Advanced society of all that we wish of 2020, blah blah blah, is not about turning and catapulting, propelling into a high-income economy with income per capita of 48,000. That's not it. That's only part of it, a small part of it. The major aspect of bringing about an advanced society is about society become more civilized. The ability to relate one another, to accept the differences, yet to be able to manage it, and to bring about a contestation in politics that will be the real cardinal point of check and balance for our country. I wouldn't want to get another bell. So I stop at that, and I believe you have a lot more to digest. and you fire at me with all your asking questions that I already guess. They usually come out in forum. I'm waiting for all those bullet points. I thank you for all your attention. Thank you.